Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Undernight interview series. With me today, I have ESFC Mario.
How's it going, everyone?
It's going pretty good for me. As of this recording, we're basically like a day away from the new year, so I'm excited to see what 2024 is going to bring us. What about you?
Yeah, it is right around the corner.
Absolutely. So, kind of to transition into our first question here, could you tell us a little bit about yourself outside of Undernight? Maybe give a surprising fact.
I was born and raised in Mexico. Moved to the States around like the third grade. So yeah, I mean English is my second language. So moving here was like pretty rough transition from like only knowing how to speak Spanish. But it's been cool. I've actually met a lot of English only speaking players in the uni community. I actually talked to quite a bit in Spanish, and it was really cool helping him translate to people what he wanted to say and what he wanted to give people feedback on while he was playing casuals that one climax of night. So it's been pretty good. I guess a surprising fact about me is earlier in high school, I was really into skateboarding. So I would do it. I had about like 6 or 7 years on me doing it like pretty consistently. Then once like later on in college, I started doing it a little more on and off. But I still do it every now and then. So I guess people don't really know that about me, but there it is.
Yeah, I certainly didn't know either. I was going to ask, based on how you led into the into talking about it, if you had completely stopped, but I'm glad that you kept going. I think skateboarding is pretty cool. I have never really had the coordination for it myself, but I could still learn. Along those lines, what would you consider to be your hobbies, maybe outside of fighting games?
Uh, Outside of fighting games, I guess nowadays, now that I mean, with the 9 to 5, it is kind of a little hard to be focused on hobbies. But I mean,
Yeah,
I watch a fair bit of anime in my spare time every now and then, and I also, I mean, just like to go out with friends. I mean, ESFC, a lot of people don't know, but it's pretty much just a group where we just go to someone's house, we hang out, we watch CPUs of ourselves in a wrestling game, wrestle each other, and we just play fighting games. It's
you
been
know, that was perfect because I wanted to ask you for a very long time what ESFC meant. Uh,
yeah.
is it an acronym for something?
I won't reveal what the ES stands for, but FC, I mean, it's just Fight Club. So I mean, ever since they've been doing it for way longer than I've been in the group, but since I joined, they've been playing Street Fighter 4 for however long. Uh, I started going around when Street Fighter 5 came out. I got into it then, and then yeah, I mean, ever since I've just been playing whatever game we decide to try.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to actually ask if the FC stood for like friend circle, because
Yeah.
groups, generally speaking, over in Japan, I think are called circles, like clubs and things of that nature.
Okay. Okay.
So I thought maybe that was there, but I learned something new today. So you mentioned that you had kind of gotten into Street Fighter 5 because of the group, and I've known and seen you kind of talk about Street Fighter in the past, even though I don't think we've ever really talked about it.
Uh huh.
What ended up getting you into Under Night?
Funnily enough, we as a group ended up trying out BB Tag around the time when Ruby came out, when she was like revealed or whatever at that one Evo, and
2018, right? Or was
yeah,
it?
I think it was. Oh man, it had to have been 18 because
Hmm.
19 was the uni one.
Yep, was the uni year.
Yeah. So we ended up trying BB Tag, realizing the game is yeah, it's
Maybe
something.
not what
Yeah.
you initially wanted out of a fighting game.
Yeah, it was definitely something. I mean, yeah, Ruby came out and we all like watched Ruby at one point, and we decided to try it. And funnily enough, the uni characters in BB Tag were the most appealing factor for me at the time. And I mean, yeah, 2019 came around and Uni got revealed for Evo, and we were like, oh, we should give uni a try instead of playing only the uni characters in BB Tag, and the rest is pretty much history. We haven't put it down since.
Yeah, I think BB Tag, for whatever people's opinions about the game are, ended up being really formative for a lot of players that actively play the game now. Silent, certainly one of them. I think Defiant was another one as well that
Oh, that's
got
funny.
to learn more about Undernight through its inclusion in BB Tag. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, I like the game. I never really got into it super competitively, but I certainly appreciate, I think, what it means for our community and kind of what it meant as a fighting game. As it released. It was funny that you
Hmm.
mentioned that you were playing Undernight characters in that. As someone who's basically played Undernight since EL, I completely avoided playing Undernight characters in that. So one of my favorite characters, for better or for worse, in Blaze Blue is Rachel. I think like
Okay.
Rachel's story is pretty interesting. I
Hmm.
really liked how her mechanics work with the Lobelias and things like that. Um, and so she was basically a mainstay on my teams when I was playing BB Tag for the bit of time that I did. So even if they weren't the fully realized versions of whatever game system they came from, I'm always appreciative of BB Tag kind of giving you pieces of what
Yeah,
those
yeah,
characters
yeah.
were.
I mean, yeah, just what was important was there still.
Yeah, absolutely. So along those same lines, what would you say that kind of keeps you interested and invested in Under Night as we're playing it today?
I think it's just my region growing and developing as players, really. I think that's what's been keeping me motivated to keep playing. We have a thing where whenever one of our players goes out to like a major and like we lose to a character we're not familiar to, usually somebody in the region will either like pick them up and like start playing them at locals just to like give ourselves the matchup experience. Because without that, we are kind of at a loss because we only have so many matchups here. So like seeing us get better as like a region has really kept my interest in wanting to go out to locals more and also wanting to help everybody in the community grow as a player as well.
For sure. So, I've always been kind of adjacent to the NorCal scene as far as like I watched a lot of NorCal dogfights and things.
Hmm.
Basically from the time that I was interested in Under Night, even kind of passively watching them now. Um, there are essentially like living legends of the scene in NorCal who may or may not be active at this point. I've always been interested in like the camaraderie that NorCal players seem to have when they go into other regions. Maybe so far as like Under Night goes, some people might have some opinions about the cheering section from NorCal, but as a person who came up in sports and kind of was adjacent to the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry in football and really in a lot of phases of life, I always thought that shit was kind of cool to me.
It's all
Uh,
part of the game.
it is. It is all part of the game. So I've always been appreciative of that. I think that's really cool. So going into the next question, I mean, we know who you are, so this question is going to be kind of obvious, or maybe not. Who is your main character, and why did you choose to play them?
Funnily enough, Wagner wasn't actually the first character I ever tried or I ever decided to want to play from the very beginning. I actually, when I first booted up the game, I played Eltnum for a little bit. I was really into like the whole Nasuverse and Fate stuff. So I mean, Eltnum was a no-brainer pick.
Mm,
But then after thinking about it for a little bit, I mained Karen in Street Fighter V. And I mean, Wagner also had like the same sweep. So I was like, I
yeah, the
mean,
Ritz
I
Girl
should just be
sweep.
playing this, right? Yeah. So then I stick with Wagner ever since, even though she doesn't really align with the playstyle that I had developed in Street Fighter V with Karen.
Mm,
But I mean, I ended up going with it, and it worked out.
okay. So I know that there's a positive answer to this kind of follow-up question, but do you have any sub characters do you have any plans to pick up any characters in Under Night 2? And why in particular did you choose some of the sub characters that you've chosen, if you've chosen them?
I think once Uni 2 rolls around, I will be doing everyone's trials like I have before in the past. I'll be looking at everybody just to see like all the changes and stuff, and it's pretty likely that I end up sticking with Wagner, especially with how, in my opinion, overtuned she is now. As far as subs go, I mean, I think currently Byakuya and Oria are the only ones that I'd pull out in tournament if need be. But I mean, like I said before, we pick up characters depending on what characters we're losing to out of region. So Phonon was one of them, and Batista another as well. So I've just been messing around with those. Phonon, ever since like ST was around, I decided to play her because she was absolutely broken in ST.
She was busted.
So yeah, no. And then Aurier, I believe one of our players lost to Aurier, so I've just been playing them more. And then Lolly Michael lost to TG that one con, so I decided to pick up Byak.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because Maiko, I don't know the reasoning behind it. Maiko really wasn't able to travel, I think, late in ST and throughout clear for the most part. So on the East Coast, or East Coast adjacency, we always kind of got the shit kicked out of us by Foxo. So the higher level players at least had a better understanding about, or I won't say a better understanding, but a more thorough understanding, at least at how Foxo wanted to play that. And then, you know, Stranger really started to make his mark in late ST clear. So a lot of us got experience with that too. I always thought that it was interesting to see kind of the differences between regions as far as like what they played. I did remember seeing some NorCal dogfights where you were playing Batista. I don't think I ever got to catch one where you were playing Aurier. So Aurier was a character that I didn't have in my mind that you played.
She's a little newer. It's been fun though. I mean, I think she aligns with my playstyle a lot more than Wagner does. But I've just been pretty hesitant to learn. Yeah, I actually played Aurier the most in the Uni 2 beta.
Okay, I didn't know that. I ended up playing her a little bit. I'm like super fond of Aurier. I have been for a long time.
She's so cool. She's so cool.
I think she's really cool. The thing that always kind of like stops me from going 100% is like any time that I run into a wall playing Akatsuki, and I kind of felt this in ST, but definitely in clear. It's like, man, if I just played the game better, I don't think I would have as much of an issue. So that feeling of like, man, I could pick up another character, I could play better, is really like what's kept me on Aka. I feel like I'm always learning something new or approaching things in a slightly different way. So that's what really keeps me on this character. Even though, you know, like I played Nanase for a time. I plan to play Tsurugi. I think he's interesting. He kind of scratches similar itches for me as Akatsuki does. At least as far as like staggered normals. Unlike Akatsuki, like late normal cancels felt really good for him. 5B was like really fun. 5C was really fun. Like 5C, 2C, and 5B were like super fun for me when I messed around with him in the beta. So I'm interested to kind of toy around with him when the game officially comes out next month. But going into our next question here, what would you say is your mode of player expression? What's like the signature thing that you like to try to do in fighting games?
I guess over the years, I have excelled in playing a little more reactively. I guess earlier in Street Fighter V, what I would like to do is, I would like to react to fireballs and go through them and kind of punish them for doing quote-unquote bad fireballs. That was a lot of fun, but this year I've been a lot better about switching back and forth between playing reactively, being more aggressive, being more passive, and it's been working out. But yeah, I'd say my mode of player expression is just to play reactively and wait for them to overcommit to something, and then just punish them for doing it.
Okay. So, I'm going to kind of give a follow-up question, but it's going to take me a little bit to meander around there. So, the way that I try to play the game essentially is to uh, repeat situations. Like, I want to set the table a certain way, see what the responses to like the questions I'm essentially asking
Mm-hmm.
someone on defense are. Um, I've been trying to work a lot recently, especially in the last 2 years, uh, on my weakness of really by personally passively waiting to see what people are going to do in response. I don't actually take the initiative to impose like stricter like risk reward situations on people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I've been trying to improve in a lot. Is there maybe an area that your player expression uh, what's the way I want to word this has allowed you to look at as far as growth? Like, are there things that you feel like you've gotten better with your time in clear at doing? Coming from maybe a weaker area of your gameplay.
I think I've gotten a lot better at actually dash blocking in the scenarios where it's actually good, because there are definitely times where dash blocking isn't actually the best thing to be doing, and dash blocking in these spots has allowed me to like be able to like buffer a special behind them and actually be able to punish them for overcommitting to an option in those situations. Like I guess dash blocking under like an assault in the corner, really realizing when they are going to do said assault because of like a previous scenario that happened or whatever. I think I've been gotten a lot better at that this year.
So you would say maybe dash blocking with intention rather than dash blocking just kind of as a
Yeah,
thing
just
to do.
mindlessly just to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Maybe that's a critique of players of my particular character. Partially because normals can feel stubby at times.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's something I've been trying to think about as well. Is like, how can I play better from a distance? And then like when I dash block in, how can I make it the most uncomfortable for someone trying to judge a response or something like that? So that makes a lot of sense. Going or continuing kind of in the weeds of talking about matchups, what matchup do you feel that you have the most confidence in and why? And then on the flip side, after, what matchup do you feel the most uncomfortable with, or maybe the most nervous in, and why?
I mean, I definitely feel the most confident in Yuzuriha. Like, I mean, I know it's like not the best matchup for Ragnar, but I mean, I started playing the game with Prem, and at the time he would also be playing he'd be playing Yuzu. So I mean, I pretty much learned how to play the game around playing against her. I mean, not only Prem, but I mean, I also had Tari there. At the time, we had a player by the name of Broken Lamp and B-Boy Sonic X, who's still around. But I mean, I had a Yuzu to play with at every different skill level, so it was pretty much just like ingrained into me where to dash block, where to shield, where to punish a thing, where to look for specific things. So like, I have been pretty confident in that matchup. But for the same reason, I'm also pretty nervous about that character, just because like anybody can do one thing differently and like just throw off your entire game plan with that character. So like, yeah, Yusu's also a character I'm pretty nervous, especially when playing somebody I've never played before or heard of before. So I mean, yeah. Also, I mean, characters with command grabs are always just a pain in the ass to deal with, especially when it's like early pools, like 2 out of 3. It's it can be a little scary. And of course, characters not in our region is also characters that I'm pretty nervous in playing about, like a Merkava or a Hilda. It's never a good time, I think.
Yeah, that's for all the characters that I was thinking of. I mean, I could see NorCal, or in my mind, the type of environment that NorCal plays like. I could see Hilda not really being a part of the character pool there, but Merkava, not really having a Merkava in NorCal was always kind of weird to me. Although in Clear, Merkavas aren't really anywhere.
Yeah.
But especially for NorCal, kind of considering the things that I think that he does, I was always surprised that maybe there wasn't a higher level of Merkava out in that area. Has there been anyone that has picked up that character a little bit?
We had somebody that played Merkava a little more on the casual side. His name was Hagure. He's still around doing.
Yeah, Hagure, that's my guy.
Yeah. He's still around. Not really playing Uni all that much, but around the WNF era of like 2018 to like earlier in 2020, he would actually match up with JDR in grand finals a lot of the time. So we did get to play him a little bit, but I mean after a while, I mean they all kind of vanished.
Yeah. Is JDR still active in the region?
He still comes out to a couple of things. He mostly is playing KOF and Street Fighter 6, but he'll still come out to Uni things and play. Maybe he won't do as well as he used to before because I mean inactivity and stuff, but he's still around.
Okay, yeah. He was actually one of the people. Once I realized what his like PSN tag was, he was one of the people that I ended up playing a lot. Like when I first got into the game too. You know, you hop online on PSN or whatever in EL and early ST, and you never really. I mean, you could tell who was like closer to you as the connections were, but he was someone that I saw in the game like quite a bit. Maybe one of the people that I played him with. Oh, I think it was like Flareon 108 or something like that.
There was a number behind it. I don't know what it was though. But I also got to see it every now and then. It's funny.
Your point about Yuzu was something that really like meshed to me. So like again, I'm not gonna say more or less than, but Akatsuki also quite struggles against Yuzuriha.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
And so we had a couple on the East Coast, at least early in the pandemic area. I played against Gosudas like a lot. Like I played against Gosudas, Kira Hellrose was one from New Jersey, I think, who played off and on, and then Chalk Demon. Chalk Demon was like a player that was beating the other dog shit out of me. So like even as I could like play, and you know, as Carp was less seasoned, I had like maybe a stronger win rate against Carp and some other Yuzus. It felt like no matter what, like if I walked into a Yuzu thing, because Akatsuki's on the back foot, it's like, oh god, what am I gonna get? Like, is this one that I can just kind of run and jump on because they're gonna slash round start, or is this one that's gonna do X and Y? Like, it was so annoying to have to like heavily adjust what my tendencies were based on like what Yuzu it was. Thankfully for Clear, I didn't have to worry about you know, ST4B. That was like a huge change. Because you really just could not throw fireballs against that character. It was awful.
Learning how to play the game against the character with ST Yuzu 4B, it was just, it was killer, man. Like,
absolutely miserable. The cool thing though is, cool, quote unquote, is I feel like the Yuzu players have gotten so much better over the years about like playing better spacing traps, playing better uni defense.
Oh yeah,
so you actually you get a more even distribution of experience between them, because you know like okay, like this person's gonna mash here and this is the expected return off of like what this mash means and things like that. So I've been thankful of that, even if it means that I have to play against Yuzuriha more. The one thing that I maybe am not looking forward to, at least as far as we got to see in the beta, is Yuzu's teleport in the beta seemed so fast compared to how I was used to playing it in Clear, and like not having 1D as a crutch, and I use it as a crutch. made the bits and pieces of me playing against Yuzu a lot more miserable than normal. I
I
don't
didn't
know
get
if
to
you had that
see
same experience.
what Yuzu's teleport looked like, or just Yuzu in general in the beta. But I mean, if you say it's faster, then I mean, I have to believe you, because I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy, I think, maybe for players to cap when running into things in the beta, but it seemed like it to me. Uh, Although Yuzu's maybe not the character that I've been playing against the most. So, uh, going into the next question, NorCal has a lot of players, obviously, but do you have a player that you consider to be your rival in the region? And I'm going to expand on this too. Do you have maybe a rival player from outside of the region as well? And why do you consider them to be your rival if they are?
Yeah, I think if I like when I first started the game and I was like learning how to play, I think who was my rival would switch a lot, because I would consider my rival to be somebody who I really wanted to beat. So like earlier on, I mean, I think all time in the region, I think it's just Prem. I think even now he's like the only player where like I sit down to play a set with them and like I still get a little nervous playing him, because like he's just an enigma, man. He will just do whatever, and like it's really funny because he has a lot of isms to him playing. Like he a lot of people have experiences, but when he plays, he isn't necessarily too focused in the game. He will actually like be conversing with you as the set is happening, and it's really funny. But it's funny when he's doing it to somebody else and not to you. When he's doing it to you, it's a little more annoying. But yeah, no, I think all time it's Prem. But as the years have gone on, like for a little bit it was JDR, because I really wanted to beat him at one of the WNFs. Eventually, when that happened, it switched over to Tensei. He actually was one of the people who taught me how to play the game. So I mean, I also really wanted to beat him. And then later on in ST, it was Tari, and then later in Clear, I would say it was a 2 GB combo.
Yeah, 2 Gig I think is over in Boston right now, right?
He did move for work, yeah.
Yeah, 2 Gig was a player that I think only got to play against once. And that was like back in ST. There was like a team tournament of NorCal versus the world, I think, at Anime Ascension. And like maybe we played a couple games prior to that team event, and then I got to play him for essentially a game in that. But I had never really gotten the full 2 Gig experience. Um, so hopefully, with him being in Boston, a little closer, I'll get a chance to play him. As far as Prim goes, I'm glad that you said that, because anytime that I've like watched him, and like we played a little bit in the recorded exhibition that I did against the NorCal players that came to Frosty Faustings in I think 2021, I was never really sure what to make of Prim and like what he was looking for as far as like playing against. Now,
Funny guy.
by the time that he was playing Eltnum, I had a better sense of playing against Eltnums who I couldn't read because we have Venice over here. Um, and not to say that Prim and Venice play the same, because they
Right.
don't, but I was like more wired to just present situations and just see what Prim was doing, rather than thinking about like, oh, is he gonna do this? Oh, is he gonna do that? So watching him play other people is always a treat. I do miss his Yuzu a little bit. I hope that he does decide to play a little more Yuzu in the next version too.
We'll make him
Although
play you a little more for sure.
Outnum certainly seems with her 66C to be
Oh my god.
more. I don't have a kind way of putting this because like I hate fighting against Outnum, but more troublesome.
Dumb, man.
Yeah.
It's dumb. It's
Yeah.
just dumb.
Yeah. So I'm not looking forward to that. Eltnum is long been a matchup that's plagued me. It's kind of like, okay, this is jokingly, Magnets is now moved to Japan, so like I don't have to go and lose to him every time I play him. But like Shaq, I think is coming back, so it's like you trade one for
Shaquille
another.
O'Neal. Yep.
I don't remember what their tag is now. I don't think it's Eunice player, but
I think it's just Uniclear player, no?
I mean, it might be Uni 2 player by the time we actually get
Oh
to
yeah,
this.
it was.
But I am excited to see that region come back too, because Minnesota, Wisconsin, there's like Cal Defenstrator and a couple other people, but the older group of like him, Murphy,
hmm
and Spencer, I think they're coming back in the next version. So I'm excited to play against them as well. But you mentioned 3 players in your region. Do you have anyone outside of the region? Uh, you mentioned that a rival is someone that you really feel like you want to beat. Do you have maybe a player like that outside of the region as well?
Yeah, yeah. So when I was also first learning the game, I was in a Street Fighter V server, like a US West Street Fighter V server, where I would actually talk to Rurik a little bit because he was in there, and we would play Street Fighter V a little bit, and I would talk to him about uni stuff as well. So I mean, whenever I would play online, he would always beat my ass. So like I really wanted to beat him offline, and eventually I got to do that. So it was pretty cool. Then it's kind of switched between people who have just beaten me. I lost to Masoma one time. I really want to beat him once Uni 2 comes out because I haven't been able to do that yet. Uh, there's a couple other players, but it pretty much just fluctuates between people who have given me the work at majors before.
Yeah, I feel pretty similar to that. I have a running list of players that I've taken losses to that I would like to get some get back, as they might say. Um, I got knots somehow or another at Combo Breaker, but I
That
think
sounds
like
crazy, by the way.
yeah, it was. I don't know. I know why they started Seth, but like I don't know why they started Seth, because I think that they would have beaten me 2-0 if they played Wagner. But I was happy to get an additional game opportunity and kind of put him on the back foot. But him, Defiant,
Oh,
Silence.
Defiant's a big one. Yeah, no, he knocked me out of the last climax,
Mm,
and I always said, Hyde is one of those characters where it's really missing one player that is just willing to block and like actually dash block his way in and like play good uni to like really make use of all of his tools, and like Defiant is just that person. Like Hyde, we have JDR, but like they play so differently in like their defense and offense that like Defiant just made me really question if I really knew how to play against Hyde. So I'm really excited to play him in Uni 2 and really study the matchup.
for sure, same. I think I only got to play Defiant once in tournament. I don't remember if it was 1-2 or like a close 0-2, but the run at C Otaku, Hiyari was actually in that pool as well. Um, but I lost like a really close one to Defiant. I think I flubbed a particular mix-up that I had high confidence was
Oh,
going to work.
yeah.
Um, and like Defiant was, at least as far as he plays against Akatsuki, he's very, very elusive. He uses backdash to reposition and like figure out or reposition from like common attack timings,
hmm
that making the adjustment around that took longer than I might have wanted. And Defiant has only gotten stronger from there. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like super excited to give a shot at beating Defiant as well. And then Masoma, like, oh man, between Climax that year where I could have put him out, and then freaking not Combo Breaker, I think it was like Frosty Faustings. He got me
Yeah,
two
yeah.
sets in a row, 2-1, and I almost got him off of that set. I felt so
Ah,
confident,
man.
but like he took the fight. I mentioned kind of at the start of the interview, not really imprinting some kind of offensive risk reward vectors against players like him and Silent. If I let them set the pace too much, it's like too difficult to come off the back foot and beat them.
Yeah, they'll
So
definitely just run away with it. Yeah.
so playing against players like that really like made me lock in. Like, okay, I gotta introduce some uncertainty so they don't get to do what they want. So those are formative players for me as far as I guess maybe rivalries as well.
hmm
Speaking of players and talking players, Do you have any players in the region, or maybe even outside of the region, that you kind of have your eye on as players you expect to be able to see a lot of in the next version? And then who are those people? And then if you have maybe some hidden gems, who are some of those players that are on that radar as well?
I have a good one. His name's Zedadiah. I don't know if you've heard of him from Strive, but he's one of the top millias in
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
Strive, I think. Yeah, we actually got him to start playing Uni.
Oh,
He's been playing Eltnum, surprisingly, and
ah,
he's been enjoying it. Zedadiah is one of those guys that will really just sit down and like grind the game out until he really gets it,
mm,
and he is really starting to show in Uni. Like he's actually getting pretty good really fast. So I think once Uni 2 rolls around, he'll just like man, with Uni 2's like training mode being so good and like
oh yeah.
it's net play being so good, he's just one of those people that will just gonna sit down, grind for like however many hours a day, and eventually just get there. So I think he's gonna be a real a real threat when Uni 2 comes out for sure.
Yeah, the take control feature that was kind of recently shown off, players like that, like I'm really scared for. I think Eltnum too, she has so many small answers to a lot of different situations. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh man, it's gonna be a problem next
it's gonna
version
be,
for sure.
yeah, it's gonna be such a problem. I think Pesto and Defiant both had the opinion that Eltnum was better than maybe a lot of the community had the appraisal for it in this
Oh,
version.
100%, 100%. Yeah, yeah.
And
No.
I would agree with that.
We have her up really high just because of Prem. Really,
Hmm.
he may not place as well as he should at events, but he at least has the brains to back it up, and he let us know that Elnum isn't in that bottom two spot.
Yeah, I think you're always going to run into situations where there are players who maybe have it together, but the tournament environment is a very different environment
Oh
than
yeah,
kind of
100%.
casually playing. Um, Not to really throw him under the bus, but I think Moon Cookies is kind of a player like that. Also an Outnum player. Um, every time I've played them or like kind of watched them play outside of the tournament setting, and like talking to other peers who had the opportunity to play against Cookies, they're like, okay, this dude really gets it. Like he has answers that I haven't really seen from a lot of other Outnums I've played, and then maybe can't quite put it together in bracket. 3K, who plays Byakuya, I think is maybe in a similar boat as well. Um, so I'm excited to see players like that. You go through the weeds and you can get replays from them. If they decide to save them. I
Yeah,
might be
yeah.
doing a lot of that in the future, to be honest. Yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. So, as far as player inspirations, do you have anyone in particular that you've modeled your gameplay after? Uh, and do you have like community members that you find that you look up to?
Yeah, so when I was first like learning the game, I would watch bots of people or whatever. I would watch Kurushi Drive's YouTube channel, and he would have like little compilations of like a certain player, and I would watch those, and those were really cool. And my first time traveling for uni was Arc Revo 2019 in Irvine, I believe it was. We a couple of us decided to fly down, and there was like a uni side event thing. It was really funny. It was a best of no. It was a first to one.
Oh,
It was a
really?
first to one. No. It wasn't a first to one. It was single elimination. It was the funny part. Yeah, it was
Hmm.
best of three, single elimination the whole way. And I was the only. We were all supposed to sign up for it, and I was the only one that did it in time. And then it filled up so fast that we all flew down. I was the only one in bracket, and everyone was just behind me cheering, and it was really funny. I ended up making it all the way to grand finals of that event, and I got second to Klim at that event. And Klim is one of those players that I would watch a lot as I was learning the game and stuff. So like I really looked up to him, and it was really cool playing him. And then I would also watch Rakir a lot. I watched
Yeah,
him in
man, he's so
ST,
good.
and I got to meet him at Anime Ascension 2020, where he got top 8, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, getting top 8 with
Enkidu,
Enkidu
yeah.
being so bad or whatever. And yeah, no, I mean, I would watch the two of them a lot. And as far as community leaders go, I would keep up with the PNW scene a lot back then, mostly because Klim was there and Rurik as well. So like I would be in their Discord server talking whatever, and that's where I got to meet Corymon. She I got to meet her there, and it was really cool what she did for her scene. So I mean, I looked up to her, and Brett, of course. I mean, with NorCal Dogfight, and he was also one of the players that really taught me how to play the game as well.
Yeah, huge
So
shout
I
outs to
mean,
Brett.
yeah, definitely. They're people I still look up to nowadays as well. Like getting to work on Slashback with Brett is just a treat, really. So
I'm
yeah.
so sad that I don't. So, because I am deciding to save a bunch of my time to go to Japan for a longer period of time next year,
Hmm.
this ended up happening for last Slashback as well. But like Slashback has been on my radar as a event to go to, because like I've wanted to go back to California for a long time. Like my first trip out there for Anime Ascension was so fun. Uh, Unfortunately, I haven't been able to make it work, but like I'm 100% rooting for you guys. Like
It'll be
Slashback is so
around. It'll be around. Yeah. Well, whenever you're ready, it'll be here.
absolutely. As far as player kind of inspirations, I'm glad that you mentioned Klim. I feel like maybe some of the younger players, or Zoomers as we might call them, uh, might not quite appreciate like what Klim is,
You
and
just
like
don't get it, man. Like
how Klim is when he's locked in versus when he's not locked in.
he's so
Like
good.
that dude is such a wall, and it seems so simple. Like it's so weird. I played him in the team tournament at Climax of Night on the uni side. I think my team was me, Miller, and God Hunter, and I think I was playing against Klim, Psychotic, and maybe it was Rakir. I don't remember who the third player in that group was, but like from playing him there to from playing him, I think we did an exhibition at Combo Breaker. You know, I kind of like went in with the same approach, like, okay, this is kind of how I'm gonna try to play against this Phonon and so on and so forth. He 2-0'd me so quick, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I was like, this is so different, and it reminded me of when I played him in ST, where I was like, no, like this guy is so different. Like he's so much better than I think people give him credit for being. Like he's been relevant basically the entirety of like his lifespan in Under Night. I'm like,
Yeah.
I hope
Definitely.
that it locks into Uni too, because like I need more people to understand like just how sick that dude is. I'm like
Yeah,
sometimes like,
I think a lot of the Soomers don't really appreciate him for like who he is as a player, mostly because I think he was somewhat hesitant to learn all the Uniclear stuff for Phonon. He was
yeah,
like still playing as ST, quote unquote, for
yep.
a little bit. But I mean, he still got it, man. He's
He's so
definitely
smart.
someone to watch out for.
Yeah. I hope he. I know he's been playing a little bit more Merkava, kind of depending on the matchup, but like his Merkava might have been my favorite Merkava to watch. And you know, I love God Hunter. I don't think God Hunter got the opportunity to play at a very high level, but I think he is also really good for a lot of similar reasons that Klim is good. But like, oh man, I hope really badly that like I mean Merkava looks like he's still pretty good. Uh, I hope that
Still looks broken, man.
yeah.
Oh man, we have him in pretty high regards in here in our
Personally, me
region.
too. I actually had the opportunity, like I played a set against Aaron Ryusei when I was over in Japan at Kagurazaka.
Okay,
It's
sick.
like on my YouTube channel. But I knew like I had played God Hunter in New York maybe like a week or not a week, but like a month or a month and a half before that. And that like gave me the second wake up call of like, oh, okay, like this is actually how the matchup is supposed to work. I ended up, I think, maybe losing to Aaron Ryusei 4-5, I want to say. after like going down 0-2 and almost going for like 5-2 in reverse,
Hmm.
and that like rearranged some of the thoughts that I had about that character. Like I think he's a top 3 character, maybe top 4 right now, still.
Definitely, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Three.
and so I hope that there are going to be more players that get to show why that is the case. But as we kind of get toward the end of our interview, we can maybe go into the hot take section. Do you, now that we're now that we're at the end of Uniclear, do you have any sort of reflections, thoughts, or maybe controversial takes that you'd like to share with the people who are going to be watching this interview?
I think, man, I think this version of Uni is good. I think when the game first came out with like the Batista changes and the Byakuya changes, I think the game would have been in a pretty good spot. I really don't like how those changes got reverted. I think if they were reverted back, the game would have been fine. I don't think the new mechanics in Uni 2 were necessarily needed, but I mean, people like new things. I get it. It's getting a little stale, and we want some new flashy things to look at. But I think without those, the game would be fine. But I mean, yeah, people like new things, so I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of the quote unquote Uniclear truthers, where I think that this version is so much better than maybe people who bounced off early or, were bounced off because of quarantine. Um,
Yeah,
think about it.
yeah.
Kind of the other thing that I've always like held, excuse me, held in my heart is like, if the pandemic didn't happen, I'm pretty sure we would have gotten 1 to 2 or maybe 3 patches like in where some of the really egregious bullshit would have gotten culled down a little bit. Maybe characters that are considered weaker might have gotten adjusted up a little bit because
Yeah, I think so too.
I think the middle, the top 16 characters, quote unquote. I think there's like Batista and like some other characters, but like primarily Batista and a case of like 12 to 18. You can make distinctions of like who's really better than who, but like it's all kind of, you can make an argument for almost any character in that block, in my opinion. I think like there's so many strong characters in this game that like making the heavy distinction between like mid tier, like who's high tier versus like mid high, I don't think that that's generally useful. That's like
Yeah.
long been my kind of opinion about the game.
Hmm.
Uh, so I would have liked to see a little bit more baking in the oven. Some bugs that get squashed out, like Akatsuki's 214A, IC 214A thing. Seth Blink versus projectiles and even other objects, as I found out, like
Oh,
late.
right. Yeah. Hmm.
And a few other things that maybe didn't work. I am curious now that we've gotten kind of to this point. I'm gonna have you dig into something. How strong do you think Eltonum actually is right now?
I where would I put her? Funnily enough, I gave somebody a tier list, and it's the first one I've ever made. I'm trying to look it up and see where I put her. I have her definitely not bottom two. Just get that out of the way. She's not bottom two. I think she is actually a very, very strong character. I think she's a solid mid tier as far as like the game actually goes. As far as her actual placing on the tier list, I think she'd be like in the top 15 area.
That's pretty fair.
I think she's somewhere over there. I just think, I mean, she's one of those characters that, like, yeah, I mean, very underplayed, unexplored. Definitely needed more players in clear to really get the most out of her, I think.
So, on the topic of Eltonum, I actually don't remember if this was a conversation that Pesto and I had during the interview or during our like 2.5 hour debrief after the interview. But Pesto presented it to me kind of similar to like Akka, where that character more in a first to two might not have enough time to set the kind of response tables that she really needs to start abusing people. Um, and so he thought that that was maybe why Eltnum was a little lower on the community appraisal scale, because she does have a tool for basically everything, but
Mm-hmm.
putting the correct tool in the correct hole takes a little longer than maybe tournament sets allow you to use. Like, and I'm curious if you actually think similarly about that.
I mean, I play against Prem, and he'll just lay it on you. Like, he'll just do the thing that he thinks is good. It'll work, and it'll just be all downhill from there. Usually, like it's really funny. Like seeing him play versus any other Elden play, it is just such a drastic difference that like I think if Prem actually like decides to practice, I think a lot of people's opinion on Elden will change.
Okay. So I'm gonna do a little bit of comparison because I, as someone who has been playing at the highest level of North America, I do have some character related questions that I want to ask. Again, this is really maybe the first time that you and I have talked in depth. Like we chatted a little bit at
Yeah.
Hostings. But would you consider Eltnum to be worse or better or similar to Line? Because I think Line is maybe one of those characters in the weeds that people have varying opinions about.
I mean, I also think Linux is just absolutely broken. Like that
I
character
think
is
she's
just
so
absurd.
good. I think
Yeah,
she's so
she
good.
is so good, man. Like
It's
I think
weird.
Eltnum
Okay.
is about as good as Linnea, I'd say. I think they are better in different areas, but I think they're in about the same spot, I feel like.
Yeah, I would be really hesitant, in my opinion, to put Line above 10, but she's probably not below. She's definitely not below 15, and I'd be really hesitant to put her below like 13. The kind of like distinctions that I have, and of course I can be mistaken because like I don't play everything at a high level, and like there are certain characters that I feel like I don't understand as well. I think when you make the distinction between like what character is good, quote unquote, and what character is not good, you start to go into matchups and like ease of navigating said matchups. And I think for me that's where like character flaws or maybe characters that have a lot of tools but aren't overwhelming start to kind of go sliding down quote unquote tier list for me.
Mhm.
And like rather than quality of tools, like there aren't any characters that are as bad as like Enkidu was in ST, or even as bad as I think like Akatsuki was in ST. I actually,
Yeah.
so we have some differing opinions about Akatsuki at times, as I've come to know.
Yeah.
But I, especially knowing what I know now, felt like ST Akatsuki was really bad compared
I
to
can
what he
agree with
was
that, yeah.
fighting. You know, compared to what you're fighting and like what your actual like toolbox is,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought he was so bad. And there isn't a character right now that is as bad as that. I don't. I would be reticent to say that there is a character that I feel like is weaker than ST Nanase is. And like to me, ST Nanase was like in that 14, 15 range for ST. I don't. That might be is like maybe my biggest hot take about Clear compared to ST. But so I'm interested in if you have any thoughts about that statement, actually.
Funnily enough, I mean, ST, I also, that was around the time when 2GIG would play Nanase over Carmine, because he ended up finding that, like, 50-50 or whatever, like, after throw, like, making the dash B and dash C hit on the same frame or whatever. And, like, we had to deal with that. And, yeah, I mean, it wasn't really fun dealing with that. And, my opinion of Nanase definitely shot up post dealing with 2 gigabytes Nanase and ST, and then come around clear, and she's just so much better. So I mean, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's that for Nanase.
For better or for worse, and because I didn't really get to experience 2 gig after like he was really developing the 50/50s, my appraisal of her I think was maybe higher than other people's might have been, just because I got to experience and I understood like how good Hishigata and how good Zawa were in ST, and like what they were doing with a character that is maybe more equivalent as far as like comparison to the cast to like ST Elnum. Like not ST Elnum, Clear Elnum. I think like relative to the cast strength, like strength versus strength, like overwhelming strength, I felt like Nanase was like pretty middling, but what she was actually able to do in relative to like how good a player was allowed her to play at higher levels than maybe her character tool set necessarily allowed her to do, in a tournament setting, rather, like strictly speaking in a tournament setting. So I don't know. There is another question that I wanted to ask you as far as like the take section goes. Who do you think is the worst character in the game and why?
Ooh, the worst character?
Or
man, it's like it's really hard because like I think every character is pretty good, but
or give me 3. Give me 3 candidates for weakest character rather than worst. Weakest. 3 candidates for weakest character and why. I want to know if you and I actually have a similar listing of characters.
God, who would I put as weakest? Like I'm looking at the cast right now and I'm like, man, it's like I have to put him as like one of the weakest. It's like, no, that doesn't make sense.
It's a hard call.
Yeah, no, I guess it would have to be like, man, it sucks, but I have to put Wald and Carmine there, even though I think those characters are broken. Yeah.
Okay, so those are 2 characters I wouldn't have put down there, but okay, let's dig into that a little bit.
And then the third, I guess. Oh man, who am I putting there? Because like all these characters are so good. I guess it would have to be. It sucks having to put Enkidu there, but I guess it has to be Enkidu.
Okay, so that was one of mine. And again, I feel really hesitant to put him in there.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think he's got some of the best defensive options in the game, even if his frame data does not allow him to press, maybe. But it feels so bad to like chew through his health pool. It feels too bad to like overcommit and get reversaled, because once he does start to hit you and once he like starts running his offense, it's miserable, man.
Oh yeah, 100% into the rough.
Okay, but Carmine, I could see it for Wald, and I have to think about it. I'll talk through my process, but like, why Carmine?
I haven't really gotten to play against Carmine a whole lot. Like I will say it's mostly just due to inexperience. But like I think I mean he's just one of those characters I haven't really played against too much. Like I've played against 2 gig Carmine. I have gotten the fuzzy forever, but I mean personally I'm part of the people who believe that the fuzzy is blockable. So like there aren't too many times where like I've been opened up by things like that. So like I kind of just see him die, and like there are times where like I'll get hit and I'm like, man, why is he doing this to me? This is just stupid. But I mean I think his game plan isn't necessarily the strongest. So I mean that's why I have him down there. I think if I had more experience against a player like Pesto or even Spinach at that, like I think my opinion wouldn't be like this. Yeah. But since I don't, I mean he's just down here.
Yeah, it's kind of like an exposure thing. I'm not gonna lie to you. Before I played, I played Spinach, and I think I maybe talked about this in the Pesto interview. Like Akka Carmine in the previous version of the game was so easy that I barely even really needed to know what the character was doing.
Okay, interesting.
Because you can't fuzzy him. Parry made
Oh.
6B go away. Like
Nice.
like literally and then he kills himself, so if I'm sitting there and he's running offense, I don't have to worry about the fuzzy and I can just kind of focus on teching throws and poking out. He's spending way more resource, even though he and Akatsuki have the same health, by the way. He's spending more of his health to try to open up me, and then like that character gets owned by Tatsu. So it's like I hit you one time after you tried to hit me like for 20 seconds, and I only need to hit you one more time. So like I didn't have to think very much. But the changes in Clear and honestly like the pure ability to play the game better that Pesto and Spinach have kind of like cultivated now makes me make some really difficult decisions on defense. So that character's appraisal for me went up. Enkidu, I have to put down there just kind of, it feels like as default when I look at characters' strengths, maybe a lower appreciation for like high defense, which is weird to say because like Uni is a defensive game for the most part. I think, but like when I compare to other characters, I'm like, who do I really put him below?
Yeah, it's so
that,
hard, man.
That becomes more of the question of like, however, this is maybe going to be controversial between us. Maybe not when you consider what character I play. I think Gordo is not great. Like, I don't think matchup wise he's very beneficial. Like, I don't think you get to use him a lot to overpower matchups. I think matchups like Akka, matchups like Nanase, matchups like Orie, like Line, like very common characters. I won't say Wagner because like I don't know how that matchup plays out, but like very common characters give him a lot of difficulty in my mind. So he was down there for me. Like I didn't think that he was very equipped to play against characters in this version. The new version though, that fucking 66BC and some of the other things.
Oh my god!
I'm and 1AD being how it is, or the lack of 1AD being how it is, I think is like a direct buff to how he wants to run his offense. So I'm going to have a lot of healthy respect for Gordo, I think, in the next version. So I think my bottom, I named two. It's really, I almost have to put Wall down there, but like, I don't.
It doesn't feel right.
It does not feel right. Like, I've played Joe, I've played Smiles, I've played Hayao in Japan, I played Shinonome. I didn't get to play against Kyo, and like Kyo is Apex Predator level of the game. But every time I played like a higher level Walled, I'm like, and I watch him even in like the matchups that he was considered to not be very good in. I'm like, this character's pretty fucking good, man. Like,
he's got it, man. He just got it.
Like, I don't want to play against this character. It feels like something could go wrong immediately.
And then suddenly your health bar is just gone, and like you're in the corner, and like he can command grab you. It's awful, man.
Especially if they have 720, because it allows them to set the table a lot better for the next sequence, and it just feels bad. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna jump or I'm gonna fuzzy blah blah blah, and then you get hit by 2C and explode. And it's like, okay, well, this is my home now, I guess.
Like you're just in the corner, he's just clapping on you. It's just it's wonderful, man.
Oh man. All right, so I did get to chat with you for a little bit on the hot take section. We're gonna go ahead and come toward our conclusion here. So the next question I have is, what are you most looking forward to in Uni 2?
Ooh, I think the changes I liked for like as far as system goes, I think 5A counter hitting. At first, I was very hesitant about being open to liking that. I didn't want it to be like Melty Blood, where like, oh, you get 5 aid and like the screen goes black, like you get fatal countered or whatever, and like
yeah.
you're in full untech, you get like this huge combo, whatever, it does a lot of damage. It's actually a lot more tame in Uni, thankfully. Like I do like it because I think up back
Yes, I
option
was gonna get in
selects
that.
up back option selects are like my least favorite to deal with in Uni. They always have been. Like I think doing like a 5As against people who are doing up back OSs, it's really good because now I get to just pick up off of like 5B after the 5A or whatever, and like I get to do whatever I want. So it's like it's great against catching that newer VO. The VO and the beta, I thought it was a little too fast. I think not being able to 5A was kind of a problem, even though I think if it did stay the same, I think it would have been fine in the long run the more I think about it, because like it doesn't grid break you anymore, and it doesn't do damage, and it depletes all their meter, thankfully. So I mean, yeah, so I think it would have been fine in the long run, even though it would have just been a buff to people like Luffle, where like VO is just gonna be like,
it really would have been annoying to play around. I think.
Yeah.
Because like
I'm good on getting VO'd like randomly and like eventually just getting hit by like a 2A and losing. Like I'm good on that, man.
Yeah, especially with how Celestial worked. One of the things that I like, because I have to kind of craft around this, like Akka frame data is like really broken, as everybody knows. But like Shield 2A into 2C being able to be VO'd kind of like makes you on offense have to think about the kind of pressure that you ran. And the thing that I didn't like about beta VO is, in my mind, in theory, you could do that against delayed B normals, and I really like for free, and I didn't like that. Now you probably still can, depending on like the recovery of your B normal, but that being less accessible was something that I liked seeing, at least from the change that we observed, you know, post beta. So who knows what line they're going to fall on by the full release, but I think that them slowing down VO was good. And then 5A counter hit, I think Akka, especially right now, kind of struggles against fuzzy jump.
I can see that, yeah.
I found a 5A counter hit confirmed that went into something super cool. I think I put it on my Twitter or something, but I was like, oh, I can catch that. And then like TK Tatsu having full on tech that you could pick up off of, I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna obliterate like fuzzy jumpers now. Like it's cool because
it's great, man. That's great.
In this version, actually, especially with 171 Shield OS, even if I 214B that, I actually don't really get a pickup. It doesn't matter if it's regular 214B or TK. I mean, I guess if I have 200 meter, you know, you combo into Kamikaze or whatever. But like one bar, I didn't get anything. Especially if I TK Tatsu, I didn't get anything because it hit worse against airborne opponents. But you could TK Tatsu meterlessly, like in combo off of it against standing opponents. So knowing that state and how it changes, at least as far as the beta Tatsus worked, was like, oh, okay. So now you really have to respect the throw portion of my offense, because the call out on me catching your jump is so much worse. So I appreciated that. I was like, okay, Akka, people who hate Akka are going to hate him even more, but I'm cool with that. I get stronger offense in various situations. So yeah. Do you have another thing that you're looking forward to as far as Uni 2? I mean, there's obvious stuff like take control and rollback netcode, meaning that you get to expand your play group. But
as far as like the system goes, I think I like new grid thrust as well.
Yeah.
I think it's just, I mean, I would still utilize it in clear. I still do, but I think the input becoming easier and like the cost to use it not being as hefty is also just a good thing. So we'll definitely be seeing that a lot more.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm here for it. As far as character changes go, yeah, I mean, I'll be trying everybody out. I know some people got their first impressions of like characters' moves or whatever, but yeah, I really need to give it like a good month before I like come to a conclusion on like character changes. But I mean, from the get-go, I think Wagner is gonna be like one of the bigger problems in this game for sure. Like she's just gonna be doing all this head ass shit, and like it's not going to be the most fun to deal with for me at least. But yeah.
I man, I so many of the changes for Akka are like changes that I really like and changes that I think allow me to set the table of expectations in a certain way that like I'm just super excited to get into the weeds there. Gordo, you know, we saw this 6-6 BC change. I think even a Reaper allows you to like get a combo and stuff off of that. TK Mortal looked really good. At least the A version, I think it allows you to get a meterless combo off of that.
Oh,
Like,
that's pretty good.
that character I have a relatively high appraisal of as far as the beta, and like fighting Gordo has always been cumbersome at times because like backdash is so strong. Uh, some of his normals, I think they reduced the hurt box of 5C. Like that, there's so many like little things that I'm just like, oh shit, this is
Yeah,
gonna be
so many
so
like
much
small
more.
quality of life things that like just didn't necessarily need to be there, but there are. And I mean, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it. Yeah, I mean, most of the changes aren't even like necessarily final. We don't know.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I mean, anything could change upon the release date. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it regardless. So
for sure. Really, like at this point, I think what is it, 20? If you pre-ordered the beta, I think 22 or maybe 23 days at this point. So we're about
yeah, because you get it like 72 hours before it comes out or whatever. Something like
yeah.
that.
I think the 21st is officially the day that it unlocks. Maybe like slightly earlier than that if you pre-ordered the Japanese PSN version for whatever reason. But yeah, that's coming. That's like 3 weeks from now.
Right
And
around the
then,
corner.
you know, while I'm
Exciting.
toying around with the new version, I get to watch 250 plus people kill each other in Chicago. That's actually really crazy to me. That
I really wanted to go, man. Like, I thinking about it now, I think if I did go and I lost to like some random like Tsurugi doing something I've never seen before, I think I would actually just end up going insane. Like it would not be good for my mental health to actually go. I think,
yeah.
but yeah, no, I'm pretty bummed that I can't go. But I mean, I'll be watching for sure. I'm sure it'll be content one way or another. So
Honestly, the one thing that I am maybe missing the most about deciding not to go this year is like the tournament is going to be what it is. You know, people are going to find the cheapest, quickest thing to like get some notoriety or fame or whatever, place well. But because casual stations were so like free running, and because the tournament portion is really only going to be about 1 or 2 days, like
mhm.
Frosty Fausting starts from Thursday, and you have a whole Sunday to like do other things. Just thinking about the amount of sets and games that I could get against players that, you know, ideally with rollback you would be able to get better connections to, but like being able to slum it and then, you know, I took a nap early, fuck it, I'm gonna go down at 3 a.m. and play
Yeah, and
sets
like
with
find someone just playing there and like actually get good experience. Oh man, it's
that's
great. It's great.
that's the part that I'm the most sad about. Like if I can't wake up, you know, after eating breakfast and all of the people who are grinding through the night like are in bed, like I can't just get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and play Red and Findo and Big Black for like 2 hours. I really miss that about majors. And like Frosty Fausting's having so many people in the event that are learning the game for the first time, I'm like super sad that I don't get to see that. And kind of like last year, unless there's some things within the region, I won't get to see the greater community in person until maybe Combo Breaker. You know, because I've chosen to go to Japan instead. I'll see some foreigners or fellow Americans, North Americans,
Hmm.
whatever, over there, but I don't get to see them prior to that. That's maybe one of the things that I'm most sad about. But rather than to end our interview on a dour note, where can we follow you? And do you have any shout outs to anyone before we wrap this up?
I mean, I'm ESFC Mario on all my socials. I mainly use Twitter, ESFC Mario over there, and Instagram. Instagram's a little more personal, but I mean, if you wanted to go ahead and give me a follow there too, I'm over there. Uh, Shout outs. I mean, the people I mentioned before. Shout outs to Prem. Shout outs to all my NorCal boys. And I mean, yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. We're at the New Year, basically, so I want to wish you a happy New Year. Same to
Yeah,
anyone
man, you
who
too.
might be watching this. Uh, yeah, just again, thank you for taking the time out, and I'm glad I got to speak to you for a bit today.
Yeah, anytime. It was fun. I normally don't really get to talk about the game like this in depth with somebody, so this is always a treat for me.
Yeah, this series was definitely something that I wanted to do to allow people who we see each other, we've seen you at the top of brackets and things like that, but really getting to know someone and get their thoughts and opinions was something that I definitely wanted to do. So I'm glad that you kind of accepted my proposal here.
Yeah, no, it was a great time from beginning to end.